Welcome to Lesson 2 in Unit 14, Bugs and Blooms. In this lesson, students will work to answer the question, what happens when a bee visits a flower? In this lesson, students ask questions about how honeybees collect pollen. They use a model to see how bees deliver pollen to flowers. Students figure out that the honeybee uses static electricity to help it collect pollen when it visits the flowers. They also determine that the bee pollinates the flower by dropping pollen from its legs, and this is important to reproduction in the plant life cycle. Students make connections to the storyline by explaining that bees visit flowers to get food. There are several opportunities for ELA cross-curricular connections throughout the lesson. You can look for specific standard connections in the Unit 14 Teacher Guide. This lesson will take approximately 3 to 4 days to complete. To begin the engage portion of the lesson, you'll remind students that in the last lesson, they figured out how flowers grow by observing and investigating the plant life cycle. You'll project a video and close-up picture of a bee. You'll ask what students think the bee is doing in the video and what they think the yellow stuff on the bee is. You'll ask what seeing pollen on the bee makes them wonder and have students record their questions on the Bee Pollen Student Journal page. You'll revisit the driving question board and add any new questions and highlight others connected to the learning goals of this lesson by calling attention to questions about bees, how bees collect and carry pollen, or how bees help a plant grow. For the Explore portion, you'll demonstrate static electricity by rubbing a blown-up balloon on your hair or a student's hair. You'll ask students questions about what they think happened and why, as well as what questions they have. You'll set up the pollen model investigation. You'll divide students into 6 groups and provide each group with the materials from the kit. As students work, they should be recording their findings on the Pollen Model Investigation Student Journal page. In the Explain portion of the lesson, students will engage in a class discussion. You'll invite students to gather and analyze their observations from the activity. You'll use the provided questions to guide the discussion around what happens when a bee visits a flower. The goal of this class discussion is to interpret the results from the investigation, explain student knowledge of static electricity, and describe the role static electricity plays in pollination. You will use the discussion to create the Lesson 2 summary chart. From the discussion, students should understand that the bee was visiting the flower to get food. During the discussion, you'll show the video Static Electricity, Snap, Crackle, Jump. You'll also post the static electricity vocabulary card. You'll show students a bee video and ask about the tiny hairs on the honeybee's legs and the electrical interaction between the pollen and the bee's legs. For the Elaborate portion, you'll read Before the Seed. Be sure to use the Read Aloud guide to guide the class discussion while reading the book and completing the summary chart. You can post and discuss the nectar and pollen vocabulary cards. For the Evaluate portion, you'll have students complete the Bee Pollination Model Student Journal page. To support student sense-making across the unit, orient students back to the driving question board. Ask, what did we learn about what happens when a bee visits a flower? And what new questions do we have? By the end of this lesson, students will have asked questions to determine how the structure of a bee's legs help it collect pollen, and developed a model to illustrate how bees help plants grow. In Lesson 3, students will investigate the life cycles of insects and think about how they might intersect with plants. For more information about this unit, visit myscipartners.com.